Welcome to the Broadway Shuffle. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Thank you. Now on to the show. Welcome to the Broadway Shuffle with Conrad, Clayton, and Zyler. I am Brennan, and Zyler's got his hat forward today. Z, that's a big deal because I had a gentleman give me a call earlier this afternoon, actually, and say, I thought I was going to see an episode where the four of you all did not have hats on for the first time, but there was that one dude in the bottom that had to have his hat backwards. And it's you. So you've got it turned around today, but not three of us wearing hats. But I guess, and this guy is a boomer, just if you're not surprised. So,
I got to do what I can for the fans, and the people demand the hats. They don't want to see my hair. That would not be a crowd pleaser.
You've got the gelled back hair when you need to, though. It can come out when it needs to.
Not for the podcast. We keep it professional here.
Yeah, Conrad's got the nice dude. Conrad,
dude,
has. Look at that.
I mean, this is thick. This is a thick mane. I'm proud of this thing. I mean, it's nice.
It's just like that. The hat's backwards for Zyler. A minute in, we went a minute.
I've got a spotlight right here, and so it darkens my face, and it's tough. We're going.
Shout out to Ron. Well, all right, man. Well, hey, Big 12 Media Days. We're gonna get into all that. Texas Tech had a lot of national buzz here in Frisco this week, and a lot of interviews. Joey McGuire spoke. He was on SportsCenter. But Z, what is the first word? What do you got for us before we kick it off?
I have a lot of thoughts about media days that we'll get into right away, right after this thought. But my first word is actually going to be about Bud Elliot. So bigger sports guy. He covers and does stuff for 24/7. He talked about his Big 12 preseason poll, and he had Tech ranked 7th, I believe, 6th ranked. He had Utah 1st, Arizona State 2nd, Kansas State 3rd, TCU 4th, Baylor 5th, and Tech 6th. Now, in all fairness, there's a chance that the season finishes that way. I don't necessarily hate that. What I don't like was the way he explained his reasoning. He said, and his reasoning was, Tech was not good last year. They were very, very lucky to go 8-5. I think that's fair. We were lucky in some senses to be 8-5. They spent a ton of money in a dried up portal year, and yet they did improve the roster, but it's not like they were spending in the plentiful 23 or 24 portal cycles. So saying that the 25 portal cycle was not as good, they did not acquire a bunch of guys who the NFL scouting services had top 100 grades on. They have a QB made of glass. And then finally, this is the one I took real umbrage with. They have a bottom third coaching staff in the league. I do not agree with that at all. You know, Bud's a smart guy. I like his show, does a really good job. I have no idea how you could possibly, with a straight face, say that Tech is a bottom 5 coaching staff in the league. There's just a lot of staffs that I don't think Tech's the best. You know, I think KSU has a really good staff. I think Iowa State has a really good staff. They've got a proven track record. But there is no way that this coaching staff is worse than the staffs at Houston, than the staffs at West Virginia. I mean, Alex Grinch is coordinating a defense in the year 2025, folks, for UCF. Like, that is a worse coaching staff than what Texas Tech has. That's my first word of the day. Also, the logic by saying Tech really wasn't that good last year, so they're going to be 6th. Utah was also not very good last year, and they're going to be 1st. Made no sense to me. Not a huge fan with the thought process there. Fine with the ranking. I didn't think the thought process made sense. That's my first word of the day, is Bud Elliott and his initial Big 12 power ranking.
Yeah, this guy doesn't sound very smart. QB made of glass. Bottom 5
started all 12
coaching
games
staff.
last year.
Yeah, I don't know who Bud Elliott is. I don't think I want to after that, Z. So thanks for keeping me away.
And Clayton was on it too. He was right on top of the Utah. It was just not logically consistent with where he placed them, and they could very well finish first. They've got a great team. I just don't think the analysis really was coherent in any real sense of the word.
Clay, you really know how to find these writers that kind of suck. Like, you know where they're at.
Zyler found this one. I do agree with you on that talent, but I got to give credit to Zyler on this one.
I'm always looking for haters. There's nothing better than engaging with haters. Like, that's the best stuff.
True.
Clayton and Zyler are lurking on Twitter every single day, looking for bad takes. They're looking. They're lurking.
I had to beware my screen time calculator off because it was getting ridiculous how much time I was spending on Twitter. So we just had to turn it off, so now it doesn't count anymore.
I had to deactivate my account for a month, but I always come crawling back.
You return quickly. It's a dangerous placement. scary world out there on Twitter, dude. Every time I'm on that, I'm like, what am I looking at right now?
So, okay. And I don't mean to transition too badly, but if you had to, Bud did bring up an interesting point. How many teams do you think are actually capable of winning the Big 12? You don't have to list them, but I thought that was an interesting conversation starter. And I know everybody's going to point to last year, Arizona State was picked 16th and they won the league. So maybe there's 16 teams. How many do you guys actually think are capable of winning this year?
I mean, okay, if I'm just going to name, no particular order. I'm just going to start naming Utah, Kansas State, Arizona State, Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, 4. TCU, I think, has the potential. Baylor, I think, has the potential. That's 6.
That's where I would probably draw the line. You could argue Iowa State too, but
Iowa State,
I think
maybe in there returning
much.
They lost so much.
Yeah.
The ones, Iowa State, Colorado, and
Kansas.
BYU. So BYU, that would be the other, and Kansas. Those would be the teams that I'm like, I think you can make a reasonable case, and I wouldn't hate if you put them in that tier. I just think there is a very clear top 6, and I agree with all of those that you listed. I think I'd probably throw Iowa State in there as 7th. It's just because I'm a little bit lower on Kansas State. Yeah. Like, do you think if you had to pick, let's say it was plus money at plus 105, you could bet on the other 9 teams to win the league, would you take that bet? Or would you not? And I don't think I would. I think it'd be a bad bet.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I would
bet, but I wouldn't
line.
if I knew how.
But it is an interesting question. I just wonder, and I wonder if you'll see more stratification in the Big 12 as we go forward. Are you going to see more teams that kind of solidify themselves into an upper echelon? And I think as we transition into Big 12 media days, that's what Yormark kind of hinted at. He said this league has a lot of parity, but we know we're going to get stratified, and we're hoping for that. We are looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to creating, upper tier conference teams. And I thought that was interesting that he is hoping for that. I know the Big 12's calling card has always been the depth of the league, or at least it's been the last 2 years. It was fascinating to hear the conference commissioner talk about hoping for more stratification and less parity in the league. I don't know what your guys' thoughts were on that particular comment.
Well, I think it gives you a brand to kind of lean your league on, right? Like, let's say, when you had Texas and Oklahoma, and they were obviously Texas for the last decade, really, maybe with the exception of the last year. I mean, they weren't very good the last decade, but before that they were good. And so if you have teams like that have a big brand, obviously you don't have a Texas or an Oklahoma, obviously, and then Oklahoma won 5 straight. But if you have that, and that type of success is associated with your conference, that helps your brand and the way the people view the conference, even if it isn't helpful, even if it isn't right. So I think that may be why he's saying that. I could be wrong there, but that's just where my mind initially goes with a comment like that. Do you see what? Do you all see what
the conferences are judged by the top of the conference? It seems like in the national eye, like no one is looking at like Iowa, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Kentucky to judge the SEC and the Big Ten. They're looking at like Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan. And the Big 12 does need, I feel like we do need like 2 to 3 teams to be consistently at the top of the league each year to build like that reputation nationally. And then that will just help the rest of the teams in the conference.
The hard part
perception is reality in so many ways.
I just don't know that there is a team or a grouping of teams that have like the resources or inherent advantages that would lend themselves to that stratification. The only one, and this is going to be terrible for a tech podcast, I think TCU is probably the team that, they're in DFW. They've been to the playoff. They've been to a national championship. They have some sort of brand cash that maybe they could stratify a little bit, but we have just as much resources as they do. We're signing a better recruiting class. You've been outside of their national champ. They've been better the last 10 years, but that would be the only team. But I just don't know who's going to have the resources.
Too.
Yeah, BYU could do it. Who has the resources and the advantages to say, even on our down years, we're going to be better than most of you guys? I don't think there's a team in the conference that is going to ever be that good.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're, when you're looking when you're looking at the biggest brand, I think currently in the Big 12 in terms of football, you'd have to say it was Oklahoma State in terms of what they've done the last decade plus, and with Gundy as the coach. Like, he has the most recognition. And they were, competing for winning 10 plus games. They've been ranked as high as number 1 or 2 in the country. I think, but then they just are coming off a 3-9 season, look completely lost. So they're clearly not the answer for the conference now. Dude, I was going to get to this though. It feels like Yormark to me, like, loves Texas Tech. Like, I just feel like he wants it to be Texas Tech. It feels like there's some bias towards, it seems like he likes Joey. He was in Austin 2 years ago for the Texas game, rooting on Tech. It just feels like his vision and Kirby's vision and like what Texas Tech is doing really align. So I think he's like, he's not going to root for specifically us in the sense against other Big 12 teams, but I do feel like he kind of hopes that our brand can carry that mantle, if that makes sense.
Well, what you've been able to do this year is create national headlines like no other team in the conference has been able to do, outside of maybe, Colorado and maybe BYU. From December 15th onward, you've been in the national landscape from a football recruiting perspective, from a transfer portal perspective, from some of the things that you've said, from the things that Cody Campbell's doing off the field. That, to me, I think Yormark appreciates a lot because it brings eyeballs that are outside the normal Big 12 sphere onto the conference and onto Texas Tech. And I think he values that a lot. Coach speaking, going about your business, like the way that Kansas, Iowa State, and Kansas State do their thing is great. Great for developing a program. They're consistently, maybe with the exception of Kansas, consistently good. They do things. They just don't create buzz like some of the other teams in the conference do. And I think he doesn't like that.
Yeah, well, and listening to Matt Berry talk to Joey, this was on ESPNU, but he said you can just tell it's bigger in Texas. Like football, it seems like everything in football comes back to Texas. So you would think within the conference, you've got Prime in Colorado, and obviously Coach Prime is a massive brand on his own. But his team, even with his son and Travis Hunter, they go 8-4, 9-3. It's not like they're necessarily generating a powerhouse there. It seems like you'd want that university to be in Texas that's carrying the load. You had it for so long. Or Oklahoma. I mean, you had Texas and Oklahoma, but you had the Longhorns. And so now it's like, could Texas Tech step into that light? It's just bigger here, And so even though Kansas State's built a great program, Iowa State, you want it to be a team that's rooted in arguably the deepest football state in America, which is here. So I don't know. It's an interesting question. I do think that Texas Tech has an opportunity to step into that. And to your point, they're going to be the talk of the Big 12 because of what they did. And we've talked about it a lot on the show, but it's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity to step into it, but you actually have to win. You can buy all the guys you want. You can recruit well. You can go to a college softball national championship game, but you've got to win on the football field to generate it. And, we'll find out here in a month and a half if that's going to be the case.
Another point to that. Well, there's players that are talking. Conrad,
go ahead. Sorry. I will say I do kind of need to disagree with your TCU point. I don't think TCU. I mean, I get it in terms of they went to a national championship. They have been better than us, but going forward in the new Big 12, I don't know that I really want to put stock in a team that can't even fill their own stadium when they're in Fort Worth, Texas, and it's for only 45,000 fans. That's just not. It's no disrespect to TCU and their football program. Like it's a very good football program. It's been better than us, but when you can't even get fan buy-in and your fans leave after the first quarter, maybe first quarter and a half, I don't think that's the kind of brand that Yormark, when he's making comments like this, is wanting to connect the Big 12 with. Even though they did go to a national title, they just can't. They don't have a serious fan base. No disrespect to the success on the field, but when you don't stay the whole game and when you leave before halftime, it's just hard to want to put you in that position. And for TV ratings too. I mean, he wants TV ratings and he wants eyeballs. And who better than Texas Tech, a major university in the state of Texas, to get those eyeballs? And so I'd have to push back on that point a little bit. If you couldn't tell by my facial expression, I don't care for the Horned Frogs that much. But I also, it's really hard for me taking serious a fan base that doesn't even show up to their games. It doesn't even stay even half the game.
And the other thing that Yormark, and this is not going to be a basketball conversation, but he really emphasizes the importance of basketball. And TCU is, I could be wrong here. They're at their peak of basketball success, and that's like flirting with the tournament. Like Tech's ceiling in basketball is clearly much higher than that, and I think elevates you, just like it elevates Kansas and Houston, Arizona, and things like that. So, another program that I think could have a real chance is Arizona State. That's huge alumni base, massive city. They've shown, and they went toe-to-toe in the playoff. They've got a coach that really wants to be their young coach. And another comment that I had on media days, I love Kenny Dillingham. The way that he talks to the media and the way that he's just very straight. Like, if you listen to Kalani Sitake, great coach, terrible interview. It's just like, he's just very measured. He's about his business, and you're not going to learn anything that you didn't know before when you're talking to him. He's respectful. He's very kind, and I respect that. It's just not going to be anything as an outside fan that I'm like, I got to tune into that Kalani Sitake press conference. The way that Dillingham talks, yeah, Cliff. It's exactly like Cliff. It was just like, dude, like there's nothing here. The way that Dillingham treats the media and talks about his program, I think is really, really neat. I think he's doing a good job down there. And this is not going to be a praise other Big 12 programs show, but I do like Dillingham. I think he's doing a good job down there. And I think I think they have much more staying power in this conference as a football power as long as he's there.
Yeah,
Zyler,
I
agree. Completely agree with you about Dillingham because he's I mean, what is he, 32 years old, 33 years old? I mean, the dude's super young.
Like, I mean, old as our OC, basically.
He gets it. I mean, he just is so much of it. And I alluded to it earlier with the brand that Your Mark wants to build and that even Texas Tech is building just by all the media attention. I mean, if you get media attention, you will get, people will view you in a certain way. Do we deserve to be viewed the way we are going into the season based on success historically? Absolutely not. But because of what Cody's done, because of what, Blanche has done and Joey's done and how the university has even portrayed itself, we're in a conversation that we've bought our way into, but we've marketed our way into it as well. And that's what's so cool about Joey is he understands that, but also Dillingham gets that as well. And so you're going to see those teams and those programs that have those kind of guys get that kind of notoriety and maybe get some of that biased media coverage just because they're better for ratings. I think it's something that has to be taken into consideration with not only Joey's value for us, but Dillingham's value on that front too. And I appreciate the way he interacts so much as well. I mean, he's just a really cool guy.
If only we didn't have a bottom third coaching staff in the league, maybe we'd really have a shot at generating some buzz.
Another thing on those lines that Conrad's talking about like the preseason buzz, a narrative that I've seen a lot this offseason is that we're going to do less with more again. Like, I feel like people think that we've been recruiting well for like the past 10 years and have just been bad anyway. I don't think anyone has actually been paying attention to some of the rosters that we put out there.
Anybody, like, if you followed recruiting during the Wells era, that we were not bringing in talent. If you followed during the Cliff era, like, we were not bringing in consistent good classes.
The cornerbacks that we were throwing out there in Cliff Kingsbury's era.
I bring this up all the time.
I miss Justice Nelson, man.
I like, do you remember, and this is no disrespect to this player because, man, shout out to you. When we took a backup Houston running back and turned him into our middle linebacker, and I was like, yep, that's going to work.
Yeah.
And like that was the kind of conversations that we were having about you trying to make a bowl game.
Yeah.
Like the talent's been elevated, but to act like we have consistently done the A&M model where you take a bunch of talent and make the sum of the parts way less.
Yeah.
Z, you brought this up on our previous episode, and you were like, "We're gonna be must watch regardless, on a national level, because if we start winning, they're gonna be like, look at Texas Tech, they bought a lot of their team, but look, they're making the most of it, they're playing well." And that's not true. We did not buy most of our team. We brought in a select few guys that are in very key positions. A lot of guys are still returning that'll play well, or it's not going to go as we hope, and it's going to be must watch because it's going to be
must watch either way.
They bought these guys. I had a friend who went to OU. He called me this week and he was like, "Dude, can you stop being so annoying? Every third post on my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is a Texas Tech video about about whoever they got in the portal or why Texas Tech's going to be this year's darling." He goes, "I'm sick of you. I'm sick of your university." And I was like, just let it ride, baby. Come on. Welcome to the show. I mean, but it's just it is hilarious. Like, it's not just us. Like, his feed is just football, but we are dominating that right now too because it's just a national buzz, and we saw that at media days. I mean, which coach was on SportsCenter? Joey McGuire.
Like, how hard do you think it was for Dan Wetzel at the whatever magazine that he works at to write about Texas Tech. That dude hadn't said a good thing about Texas Tech in his entire life, and he wrote
Dan Wetzel. Did he start Wetzel Pretzels or what?
No.
Well,
no.
What's crazy about that is I would much rather be Texas Tech than Oklahoma.
ESPN.
I mean, you brought. I mean, Oklahoma brought in like I mean, John Mateer, I don't know about you guys, but I do not believe in him at all. I mean, we played him last year, but our defense, we know, was not very good. We made him look amazing. I don't know how many quality teams he actually played with their schedule, but to think that you're going to go from Washington State to the SEC and be the exact same player with a Oklahoma team that really didn't do much last year, I wouldn't want to be riding with John Mateer as my savior for my football program. I'll just say that.
I'll say this though, Oklahoma, they brought in Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl guy. He's their new GM. I wonder if Venables gets another year. And I mean, we don't want to talk about OU the whole
because
time
of that. Yeah, sorry, you brought up OU.
I brought up the guy.
That's been bothering me. I'm just not a John Mateer believer, and so
we'll find out.
hooking my football program to John Mateer just wouldn't be exciting to me. But that's just
really good against us,
dude. Everyone looked good against us. Everyone looked good against us.
Be dropping a bag on a QB in the portal. I feel like, I mean, Carson Beck, John Mateer, Nico,
Darian Mensah.
Yeah, those are the top QBs.
So
I feel like all those are incredibly risky.
Maybe that's why Bud Elliott was saying this is a weak class, because it's usually a class driven by quarterbacks and players. But it seems like who Texas Tech was able to land are guys that are very efficient at their position, at least in college. Maybe they might not have a first-round draft grade, but they're going to play well, at least on the D1 level, and especially in the Big 12. And so I do feel like for Texas Tech in the transfer portal, like this year, and seeing some of the guys, it did seem like at media days there was a connection. I feel like Joey wasn't just talking out of his butt when he was like, these guys love each other. Like you can tell, Romello Height, these guys, they're getting along and they're meshing well. And I think that's probably the most important part for Texas Tech going into this season, is that these guys just mesh well. Did you guys see that? I felt like I was seeing that a lot, like just a great camaraderie in the interviews and the time together in Frisco. It just seemed like they're ready to go.
I thought McGuire, in general, I'll comment on that. I thought he was fairly reserved. The way that he talked about the 23 team, he did not talk about this team like that. He was very, what did he say? Like, we have an opportunity. He didn't talk about expectations. He was definitely not putting the target on their back, trying to play things low key. It was the other coaches that really brought in, Dillingham was talking about us. Sanders was talking about it. There was a lot of other things. But to your point on the players, interesting group. Lee Hunter transfer, Cole Wisniewski transfer, and then you had Caleb Douglas, you had Baron Morton, and then who are our other two guys? We had
Jacob Rodriguez,
and then we had a sixth guy. Golly, this is bad podcasting, but we'll find it in just a sec. But yeah, it did seem like the group meshed well together. I thought those interviews that are up at Red Ritter Sports are interesting. I think Cole's perspective in particular was really interesting on the defense and how it's worked as a team. He seems like he has a really good mindset about what this opportunity means to him, and what he wanted out of the portal was something we were able to provide, and that was an opportunity to really develop as a player, to play early, and then to also be at a place that has a lot of resources to develop you both here and then professionally afterwards. And yeah, I thought the players represented themselves really, really well. They were all well-spoken. That's something that you don't always get out of players, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was interesting too,
go ahead, Conrad.
when last thought, or maybe not last thought, but just quick thought too, what Baron said about taking the guys hunting. And I think Joey even mentioned it as well, not too far from where I am, at their hunting lease. And I thought that was pretty cool. Baron, if you're listening to the show, I'd love to go hunting as well. So just throwing that out there.
No one's surprised
at the same time. Yeah, I think that'd be fun to go hunting with a bunch of Texas Tech football players. How amazing would that be for the podcast? It's a whole different conversation.
Good content.
But I thought it was cool how it's obvious that the Baron has kind of taken his role, and these other guys that have come in have really taken to, hey, we know we've got the talent, but let's put it all together on the field, or put it all together in the chemistry department so that it can all translate to the field. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I also wanted to bring up to when Joey was asked about Micah. Did y'all see that? that question,
Mm-hmm.
which I was excited for that question to be asked. I mean, Joey responded the exact way he did in the Lubbock Avalanche Journal article that Don Williams wrote. It was almost like that release was strategic to get that out before, so that maybe people didn't ask or something like that. I don't know, but it was interesting having that, hearing him talk about how, Joey called Micah's mom and said, "Hey, I want to reach out to Micah," and she was like, "No, he's coming to see you face to face. He left in person. He's going to come back and talk to you," which I thought that was really cool, because I think that, our thoughts on Micah's journey have been well documented here on the podcast, but to hear that not only did it reconcile in person, but also that Joey was even like, "Hey, I'm gonna start with, before he could say anything, I'm gonna start with telling you, hey, this is how I could have done better." I just thought that really exemplified the humility that Joey has, and realizing, hey, that is not an easy thing to say for any person, let alone a sitting power 4 head coach with a 5-star recruit. But I thought that just spoke so much to not only Joey as a coach, but Joey's character as a person, just because that's not easy to do. And I think that's a big reason why this reunion was had with a guy with the talent of Micah, is because Joey was willing to take that first step and make it work, which I just think only, and at the end of the question, Joey said something that I think we all heard, was like, "This is going to be a great story." Which I was like, man, that's going to be, if this all works out and it all plays out the way it can, because he's got so much talent, man, this could be a really cool redemption story. And so I think that was probably my favorite part of Media Day, just hearing Joey say that, as opposed to, reading it, but him saying is a different thing. So I was really, really excited to see what that can even be this season and going forward.
Clayton, I want to transition to J-Rod, because it was it was cool to see preseason Defensive Player of the Year honors. What do you feel that means to have a defensive player from Texas Tech, be voted that in the award? First of all, and secondly, how big a year do you expect from him? And do you expect him to accomplish that award? Like, do you feel like that's something he could definitely win in December?
Yeah, I think it is definitely crazy to see a Tech player, preseason Defensive Player of the Year. But I mean, we talked about it recently. It's like, the additions that we've gotten, mainly Bailey and Hunter, I feel like have overshadowed Rodriguez, but he might be our best player entering next year on defense. And I think this award definitely shows that. And I think he could absolutely get it done. I mean, I think Joey talked about it in the media days that, like, having the defensive line that we have should free up him and the other linebackers to be more aggressive and just like not really have to play outside of their role as much this year. Whether he actually wins it at the year, I don't know, like the clip of when the preseason player actually ends up with the award at the end of the season, but I definitely expect him to be like one of the top 2 or 3 players on our defense. And, if we're really good and we have a good defense, they're probably going to pick a Defensive Player of the Year from a team at the top of the conference with a good defense. So I think he's got a good shot at taking home the award at the end of the year.
Yeah, Z, it was also interesting with the preseason, with the list of the preseason all Big 12 teams. And some Texas Tech guys obviously made the list, some didn't. But what were your thoughts on those specifically? And do you feel like there were any Texas Tech snubs?
Yeah, the only snub that I would have maybe thought, I don't know about that one, and me and Clayton have argued about this, is Caleb Douglas over Eric McAllister at TCU. I think Eric's probably a bigger name, and but I mean, I don't know. Eric was the number 2.5-ish on his team already. Like, I don't. Caleb statistically actually had a better year than Eric did last year, so that was the only thing. Maybe Eric's going to be featured more as the true number 1, but I kind of expect that out of Caleb too. That would be the only Tech player that I was maybe he should have been first team. That would have been, or he should have been on the preseason All Big 12 team. Otherwise, I thought they did a really good job. I don't think Ben Coleman at Arizona State deserves to be a preseason All Big 12 offensive lineman. I think that should have been Joe Cotton at Cincinnati. I also don't. I mean, there's a million running backs you could choose in this conference. Just kind of take your pick. So that didn't bother me. But yeah, you got respect on the defensive side of the ball. You had David Bailey that made it. You had Lee Hunter that made it. Jacob Rodriguez that made it. So you well represented on the preseason All Big 12 team. No real. I thought they did a pretty decent job. No big remarks from me there.
I was looking back at the game logs for McAllister and Douglas. I definitely think Douglas got snubbed. I mean, I was like, McAllister cleared 3 catches in conference play twice, and they were both 4. He hit 100 yards once in conference play, and it was exactly 100. And some of Douglas's games, like 5 for 116, 9 for 99, 9 for 140, 5 for 102. Like I thought Douglas probably deserved it, but that was my only complaint, really.
This is one thing that you'll notice about the Big 12 this year, though. The QBs are pretty deep. You probably have the best collection as far as depth goes on the QB side. The wide receiver talent is very much down from last year. You don't have it's Jordan Tyson, and then like he is very clearly the best wide receiver in the conference right now. There may be somebody that emerges on one of these teams, but I think there were 7 or 8 wide receivers last year that would be better than most of the top receivers this year. It's going to be a down year for receivers in this conference.
Yeah, that's interesting. Usually the Big 12 has a lot of, I mean, Iowa State had 2 NFL guys on their roster last year, you know, and they're core.
Well,
and
I just had 2 as well, right?
TCU had 2,
yeah. Jack Besh, Savion Williams. You had Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins at Iowa State. Kansas had some guys. You had Josh Kelly. Arizona had, what's his name? Teteroa McMillan. Travis Hunter. Like Kobe Hudson at UCF was really good.
Yeah, it was deep.
There were a lot of like really solid college receivers last year, in NFL guys. There's just not that talent this year.
It's got to be exciting for us, you know, as Red Raiders to see all those guys on the preseason team on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, again, it's just not something we're used to. Joey's a defensive-minded coach. You bring in Shield Wood. You've got Lee Hunter now, like you mentioned, Height, you know, and obviously J-Rod. But it's interesting. Like, do you feel like it's going to live up to the hype, or is there a letdown ensuing on the defensive side of the ball? Because it just seems like this is going to be a stacked unit. I'm anxious, man. I'm like, am I going to get let down here again? And let's take health away, assuming you stay healthy.
Assuming everybody plays.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Is there a letdown coming on the defensive side of the ball?
You know, I was talking to some guys earlier about this, and the thing that I learned after last year doing all these previews, you know, I'll spend 6 to 8 hours writing on each of these teams, and outside of quarterback, there's really not a position group that can truly elevate an entire unit on its own. You know, UCF had probably the best defensive line in the conference last year, and nobody knows it because they just didn't have good linebackers and they didn't have a good secondary. And so it didn't help enough. You know, Utah had an excellent offensive line, didn't matter. Your QB and your receivers and running backs were not very good. And so that's where I look at our defense, and I know we focus a ton on the defensive line, but it needs to be a coherent unit. You know, it's got to be, all the units have to play well together. Now, having a great defensive line helps. That's obviously, if you had to pick a unit to be dominant, it'd be that group. But it has to be a cohesive unit. It cannot be we'll just hope our defensive line bails us out. We need the secondary to be good. We need the safeties to be good. We need the linebackers and cornerbacks. And that's been my biggest takeaway. So hopefully, but I think a lot's going to rely on that secondary, which I'm a little concerned about, but I think you'll have a really good defensive line, and that's going to be a nice cornerstone to build around.
Yeah. It's hard for me to picture the front 7 being bad. I know some of the linebackers have struggled in pass defense, but the defensive line, and then, you know, all these linebackers have played in the Big 12 some multiple years. And then, I agree with you. Like, if our defense is average, it's definitely going to be the secondary or injuries that are the reason for that.
Yeah, I think about Cole Wisniewski, Brendan Jordan, and Mikkel Dingle being your 3 starting like safeties and nickel. And I'm like, is that good enough? Like, is that a good enough secondary? Like, I don't know. I think Cole's really good. I like BJ a lot, 4-star kid, and I think Dingle has all the potential in the world. He just hasn't been great yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I wanted Conrad, any thoughts on the defense? Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you guys as well. I don't see any way the defensive front is bad. Like, I mean, if you can rush the passer, if you can rush the passer, right? Like, and we have guys that we haven't had maybe ever at that position, with the exception of Tyree Wilson in terms of a defensive front. And so I just don't see a way in which that's not good. And I think if let's take the worst case scenario, right? If it doesn't work out there on the defensive front, you cannot get pressure. I just have a lot of questions about a lot of different things if that's the case. Like, I just think that's like in the range of outcomes, I just feel like that's very, very much at the bottom. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to be top 3 in the league in sacks and even pressures as well, just because of how dynamic this group is. But I would feel like it's very unlikely for that. And so I do think the defense is going to be I think you're going to be able to be really confident in the defense that you're going to get stops that you need to get because of the talent level that's just been brought in. It's just all about it gelling. So that'd be my thought on the defensive front and then the defense as a whole.
Yeah, well, okay, I want to transition to Brett Yormark again. I thought I'd bring it up earlier, but the 5+11 model, I can't wait to get into this because I know there's a lot of differing opinions on this podcast, but he was just adamant about it. And he was even adamant about saying...
Explain it for the listener.
The 5 automatic, which, yeah, great. You're right. I got to assume always got to assume the person listening doesn't know what you're talking about. So when the playoff goes to 16 teams, there's a lot of talk about the 5+11 model, and that would be the 5 conference champions plus 11 at-large bids. And Yormark's a big component of this. And he was even talking about in his press conference, it might not benefit the Big 12 in the short term, but long run, he thinks it's the best thing for the conference. So I wanted to kind of bring it back now that it's been brought up. It was talked about, wrote about. Do we feel like in terms of, in the eyes of Texas Tech and who we are and what we seem to be building towards for the future, is that the best playoff model that you'd prefer to get you into the playoff more often? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I definitely think he's right about it could hurt us in the short term because like there's going to be years where we don't get 2 in with the 2 automatic we would, but I don't think it's smart to just relinquish and like admit that the Big 10 and the SEC deserve 4 spots. And if the Big 12 from that model, like if the second team from the Big 12 is not deserving, they're just going to change it like eventually to 4 or 6 from the SEC Big 10 and 1 from the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Like you need it to be 5 and 11 in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. I will say it may change once Texas Tech joins the SEC in a few years, when it inevitably goes to 2 power conferences, and I think that's going to happen at some point. So my opinion may change, but right now I think it's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised he got right to it, I guess, pretty quickly because like the current situation we're in, there's not a lot of answers about like, okay, is this actually happening in 2026? What's the situation going to look like? What is the realignment going to look like? College football is just changing rapidly so fast. So I just found it interesting, that's kind of where he wanted to really hammer his point. It was a big talking point from his press conference, but yeah, I mean, regardless, you win on the field, you'll make the playoff. I think, if Texas Tech wins 10 games every year, I think they'll be in the playoff every year. You go 10-2, I think you're in the playoff. So it still has to be done on the football field, but it is an interesting thing to think and look at, like what would benefit you more? Would a 2-2 plus 1-1-1 model, whatever, benefit more if you knew you had 2 automatic teams? Like what? I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, also what's fair for what's the best model for the health of the sport? I think that has to be taken into consideration as well, because I don't think it's in the best interest of the sport as a whole for the SEC and the Big 10 to get more and to just basically cede all that ground to them for the parity of the sport and just the quite frankly, misinformation that's out there about those conferences. I mean, Arizona State should have beat Texas last year, and they're in the lowly Big 12, and so I don't know that I necessarily think that's a helpful thing to ever go to that model, because I don't think you're necessarily doing justice to who actually is the best team in each conference, and then once conferences play each other, how they actually work out on the field.
For sure. And he said he did say he expects multiple teams to make it this year, and we got to hope we're one of them. So Z, I wanted to ask you too about BYU. I'm just kind of going down my memory bank on what I listened to and what I heard. So Jake Retzlaff's he's gone. It's kind of peculiar to see. I mean, we think he's gone. Like, it sounds like he's gone. But like, it's weird having an 11-win team. You're returning your quarterback. Now you're not, and it's just like this. Now you're having a QB competition a month before the season. It's just a really interesting spot for what you thought would be one of the heavy Big 12 favorites.
Yeah, it's something. They still expect him to leave, but that has not been confirmed yet. He has not entered the transfer portal, so there's still a chance he comes, I guess non-zero, but the expectation is still for him to leave. it's just, Kalani said, I'm going to let, and it's very respectful. That's the way you should do it. He's like, I'm not going to talk about that situation. I'm going to let Jake comment on his situation, which is fine. I totally respect that, but we didn't really learn anything, but I do expect him to leave. I'm not sure that that's going to be a bad thing for BYU. I don't think Jake Retzlaff's very good. I think the devil you know is sometimes better than the devil you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I know Jake Retzlaff's not very good. They may have a backup that can actually sling it. So we'll see. I think it nuked them in the betting odds. They went from top 6 to not in the top 6 as far as conference odds go. So obviously most professional gamblers think that he's gone and that hurts their chances pretty significantly. Not a whole lot more that we learned from Kalani Sitake. He didn't give much more after that.
Is that the coolest name in the conference? Kalani Sitake?
Dude, I just have such a man crush on Mike Gundy. Like, I just can't. Every time Mike Gundy talks, I love listening to Mike Gundy. He's just so good. And so Mike Gundy's my favorite name.
Okay, so hey, that's a good question. So who's your biggest coach man crush in the conference not named Joey McGuire? Sounds like we got
Gundy.
Gundy?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Clayton?
Yeah, mine would either be either Gundy or Dion. Low-key to Conrad's demise.
Oh gosh, no way.
Clayton, I hope you enjoyed your last episode of the Broadway Shuffle.
Imagine Dion at Tech, though.
Dion with Tech's resources would be insane.
No,
you would not be able to hate him, Conrad.
Dude, he's like way too much. Like no, I can't.
Okay,
it
would
take
Shiloh Sanders if he played for Tech.
It would take 3 weeks and Conrad would be all in.
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'd have to get some of those joggers Dion had and stuff. Like I don't know. I'm not necessarily a Dion guy myself.
What Mike Gundy said about the 5+11 model. He's like, well, some people are saying we may only get one bid a year. And he's like, well, my advice would be to just play better, and then you will get more than one bid. And it's like, yeah, well, you're exactly right.
And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, you just go do it. Go take care of business on the field, dude. Mine's Kyle Whittingham, man. I love him. Like,
I do love Kyle too.
Like, he's just he's stoic on the sidelines, but he's had a great program. He's been there forever. He's won everywhere and every conference they've been in. It's just, I think he's probably my favorite coach outside of Joey in the conference. And he coached Cam Rising, my bro, dude, my boy Cam out there. He's probably in some van right now.
Where is Cam?
Whipping it around. I don't know. He's just driving the 101, dude.
For a NCAA.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Cam Rising.
Dude, honestly, I'd probably go. I'd probably go Kenny Dillingham. Probably. I mean, he's just
a really solid.
He's awesome. Like, he's just awesome. I'm just really happy none of us picked Sonny Dykes.
Gosh,
Sonny Dykes would be last.
He would be low on my list.
Yeah.
He would be above Scott Frost and Scott Satterfield, though. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, Neil Brown's out of the conference.
Neil Brown's gone. Dude,
I like Rich Rod.
Yeah, I like Rich Rod. But Neil Brown, man, when he freaking put his own nails in his coffin whenever they asked him, like, why students should go to the game. It's like, the weather's going to be nice. It's going to be a great time.
Dude, what about Scott Frost's comment about his alma mater, Nebraska?
Okay, I heard that he thought that was off the record. Like, he told a reporter and he didn't think that was an on-the-record comment. And the guy was like, no, that's going to be on the record. Like, Scott did not mean for that to get out. Yeah, dude, but for those who didn't hear, Scott said, who has the exact quote? But basically he said he shouldn't have left for Nebraska because it was just not as good of a job as he thought it was going to be.
What's crazy is like, it's a better job than UCF. But Rule's done work there, but it's still not. I don't know that it's really that great of a job. I'm just saying that about Nebraska as a whole.
If you were looking for a random piece of content to consume, and if you're still listening at this point, you probably are. There's a Dead Letters episode done by Split Zone Duo where they talk for an hour about how Nebraska actually became a powerhouse. And it really is because they were allowed to recruit a certain kind of athlete when other colleges weren't. And they were the first program to do strength and conditioning. Once both programs caught up on those two particular regards, it was pretty much over for Nebraska. But you should listen to it. It's really fascinating to hear the history of another program.
That's interesting. Would you send us? Can we drop the link?
I'll drop the link. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Yep.
Well, good, man. Well, hey, I mean, it was wild to see like Joey on Sports Center, and I know they do different interviews with different coaches, but it just felt like Texas Tech was a talk of Tuesday at media days. It just kind of and I'm saying that obviously from a Texas Tech podcast, but I feel that unbiasedly. I got a sense that this is going to be a big year. It feels like it.
Either way,
really.
Either way, I know.
Really,
Isn't
aren't I so attentive to know that? Like, as a podcast host, and I can just sense
so
things
glad
like
you've
that.
been paying attention this
That
offseason.
no one else knows. But it just is exciting, man. Like, I'm not used to this. I feel out of place, But I'm ready for the spotlight. I was literally watching the 2008 game again, like last week. I don't know why. I just turn it on occasionally. And I was like, dude,
when you're having a bad day.
I was having a really bad day, and I was like, it's time. Let's get this place rocking again. Like, we're ready for it. So it's a lot of fun.
You know what
man.
I did watch last night? I watched the first 5 minutes of the. No, I don't even know what that is. I watched the first 5 minutes of the Texas Tech at Oklahoma game. And from 2008.
Why did you do your?
Why did you do that?
Why would
the
you
first
do
5
that?
minutes? It came up suggested on YouTube, and when YouTube tells you to watch something, you just click on it. And I didn't. I watched 5 minutes, so I didn't go further than that. But like, it had so much hype. Like, the broadcast was epic until like we know what happened. We don't have to talk about that.
fans still say that was like the best like home field atmosphere that they've had at that time.
I believe it.
Which is crazy.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, isn't that nuts?
Seeing that number 2 next to Texas Tech was like, that's
rest in peace, Big 12 South. What a
I
epic.
know.
We all just kicked the crap out of Baylor. TCU wasn't in the conference. It was great. Great time.
Let's bring it back, man. Realignment 2.0.
Dude.
I'm ready for it.
Oklahoma State, OU, Texas Tech, UT, A&M, and Baylor. Like, that is an awesome
sick.
5-game rotation every year.
Dude.
Like, why would you?
And then you get from us.
Then you get the 3 north opponents like Mizzou, Kansas, Nebraska. I remember going like
Kansas State, Colorado.
Yeah, Stick Sheffield went like at Nebraska, and they beat Ndamukong Suh's team. And you're just like, I think that's right. And
or was that?
Or was that Taylor Potts? I was like remember. 13, but like, but anyways, it was just like it just felt like, man, you were on ABC at 2:30 and, you'd see the rivalries. And I just remember like Mike Patrick's voice and, dude, just the nostalgic of like 2007 to 2011. It's just wild, man. I remember watching us on like, it was the year after 08, and it was Taylor Potts at UT. And it was when Mike Leach faked the kneel down. Do you remember that? Y'all remember this at all?
And they blew the whistle.
What'd you say?
Was that it? The time when they faked the kneel down, but the refs blew the whistle?
Yes.
Or was that a different? Okay, yeah.
I think that was it. And it's just like, it was just so fun. Like, Tech was on ABC at night against UT. You had so much national
We'll be back.
time, and I think it's time to go back. Yeah.
We're back.
So
we're back.
Anyways, we will also be back on Monday.
Nice. It's professional.
Dude, I mean, what else am I here for, man? The transitions are seamless. So we'll be back on Monday, and make sure, one thing that we'd love for you guys to do, if you're still listening to this point, if you're not following us on social media, we would love for you to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Z's dropping some great stuff on X/Twitter all the time. And then also make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow, helps us get better guests, and we really appreciate you being a part of the Broadway Shuffle. So for Conrad, Clayton, and Zyler, I am Brennan, and we will catch you guys on Monday. Wreck 'em.